Vancouver. Welcome back. We are live for the first time ever on Vancouver Real on Facebook. Thanks for joining us. I am one of your co-hosts today. My name is Mike Zaremba, and with me is my brother, Andy. Andy, how are you feeling over there?
Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to be live on Facebook for our very first episode. It's going to be an Entrepreneur Roundtable today, so that's exciting. And before we get into that, I wanted to give a little shout out to the Grind Bar. The Grind Bar right here is a Dave Wheel creation. And it is an amazing bar, which is actually a CBD product. And there is protein and a high amount of fat in it. And there's also cacao, coffee bean, and matcha. So this is great for energy, great for clarity, because all those stimulants kind of give you a little bit of energy, but then the CBD kind of bring you back down. And I'm finding it's really great for pain management as well. So
very cool. Definitely,
if you get a chance, go check out Grind Bar on Facebook and give him a like. And the product will be launching very soon, and this is what it looks like. And it's an awesome product. I take it personally a lot before I go to the gym, or actually before I podcast, because I find it gives me a nice little boost of energy and a little bit of clarity.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And as per usual, we are podcasting here at a float house at 70 West Cordova Street. Floathouse.ca is our website. And if you haven't heard of flotation therapy, well, you can go and check it out online. Also, a really concise video that we have is on YouTube, and it's entitled "What is Floating?" It breaks it all down, what this amazing therapy is all about. That's basically what we do, and that's what sponsors this podcast, Vancouver Real. So check out Floathouse, floathouse.ca. If you want to save 20% on a single float, use the promo code VancouverReal.
And May is a very busy month at Vancouver Real. We have two events that we're promoting right now. The first one is Give and Grow. It's a documentary by Philip McKernan. Philip's coming on, I believe, May 13th. You can check on the Vancouver Real community page. We have the link to that event. Or you can go to vancouverreal.tv, and we have a community tab, which all the events that we're running this month are under. And Philip's been on Vancouver Real twice, and this will be his third time when he's back in town, actually. And he's always a wealth of knowledge, and he's all about, bringing out your authentic self, like really being authentic. And it kind of can be scary to be who you really are, because you're putting yourself out there. You're putting yourself on a limb. And this is what Philip really encourages. But he'll be doing a screening of his documentary May 13th here in Vancouver, and then a big Q&A. So if you're a Philip McKernan fan, definitely check that out, because it's a great time just a chance to reconnect with him. And also, the weekend after that, on May 21st, we have Wim Hof coming to Vancouver. He'll be doing a full Wim Hof workshop at the Nest at UBC. If you'd like to get connected to that event, go to the top of the Vancouver Real Facebook page. It's pinned to the very top, and you can click through there, and there's a link that will take you to where you can buy tickets. Or again, you can go to vancouverreal.tv through the affiliates link under community, and there's a link that goes right to where you can purchase tickets for that. And I'm super excited. I got to interview Wim on the podcast on Monday, and great episode. He gave me 90 minutes of his time, super down to earth, and we really dove deep into his work and what he's all about. So May 21st at the Nest at UBC. Hope to see you there at Wim Hof. And after that, we're doing a third event with Casper. Casper is the best-selling author of a book called Mind Lift, and he's actually Wim Hof's top trainer. And he's going to be doing a full immersion weekend. So if you like the Wim Hof training, this is a chance for you to completely dive deep into that work. And he'll be doing a Friday, Saturday, Sunday workshop, and I believe they finish it all off with a big hike through the mountains in the snow, just wearing shorts. So he's going to get you to the point where you can do the cold water immersion, the breathing exercises, and go through a big hike and keep your body temperature up. So if you really want to experience like the full scale of what the Wim Hof method is, definitely check out Casper's event. And again, you can see that on our community page on vancouverreal.tv. Now, today, this is a very special episode. Obviously, we're live for the first time, and we brought in some brothers from the community who are also fellow entrepreneurs. And what we wanted to do was make this an entrepreneurial roundtable. So if somebody's interested in starting their own business, working for themselves, having some freedom, this is going to be the episode for you, because we're going to go from the ground up, how to do some market research and develop your product, and then the marketing side of it and sales. We're going to dive into all that today. And I'm going to let the guys introduce themselves, just because they can do it a lot better than I can. So why don't we start with Ben Weir. Ben, welcome to Vancouver Real, and why don't you tell us about yourself and what you do?
Thanks, Andy. I am I guess most of my time I spend making hair products, really. So I've got Bloom On, which if you look it up on YouTube, we make hair tutorials, me and my business partner, Joe Andrews. Joe mostly does the tutorials, and I mostly do the business stuff. And we're here to talk about business stuff today. So we make really cool hair products. We really, what matters to us is just living life on our own terms and being able to create stuff that we're passionate about. And, we get to do that through everything that we do at Bloom On. Not only that, though, now recently we've started doing Momentum Ventures, which is our new... We're starting to do kind of early stage venture capital stuff, and it's pretty new. So we've got some pretty good experience building our own companies, and now we're starting to build other companies too.
So what would you say is your area of expertise?
I'm good at product creation and marketing.
Awesome. Okay. Next up, we have Mehtab. Welcome to Vancouver Real.
Thank you. Like Ben, I'm more focused on the guitar side of things, as well as the new guitar pedal company we just kind of came out with in December. I've also helped out Bloom On a bit with the hair products. I'm kind of all over the place. I'm also working with Tyler on a new brand of socks that we're all wearing, but I can't show you right now.
Stink too bad.
Yeah, and I'd say I'm probably better at just kind of strategy. I'm not really an executor. We're just kind of strategic.
Very cool. And last but not least, Tyler, welcome to Vancouver Real.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. So I got my start in construction when I was about 19 years old, and I've been lucky enough to be self-employed ever since. And it's really just given me that sense of freedom and the ability to be creative. And so after the construction phase was kind of over, I was able to meet Ben and Mehtab through my brother and joined Momentum Ventures, and now we're doing a couple different consumer goods companies.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I want to start off with maybe the market research section of entrepreneurship, but I want to go a little bit further before that, and that is getting yourself geared up and giving yourself the confidence and the belief that it actually takes to run a business, right? When Mike and I were just planning Float House, we dove deep into a lot of personal development kind of stuff just to build up the confidence and the belief in yourself, because I feel like that's such a crucial element when starting your own venture. And we were doing this, I remember it was called Mental Toughness. It was an online resource basically. And it just got us so geared up to be able to we can do this. We can create this business. We can launch it and kind of help us get past the fear. I wouldn't say get over the fear. The fear is always going to be there, and you always have uncertainty. But just like saying, okay, screw it. We're a little bit nervous about this, but we're going to do it anyways. So that's kind of what we did in order to just deal with the entrepreneurial angst. And I'd like to just go around the table again and say, what did you guys do in order to build up that self-confidence and belief in yourself to be able to launch your own ventures?
I've actually got a really good trick for this. Okay, so I think it was like a Joe Rogan that they did on cult leaders a while ago. And the guy was talking...
Stephen Hansen.
Yeah, Stephen Hansen. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he came on and he explained how the cult, because he was around a bunch of people that all believed exactly the same thing, he got completely indoctrinated and managed to think all kinds of, pretty off-the-wall things. And his psychology was completely rewired just by the people that he was around.
That was actually one of my favorite episodes. Fascinating stuff, by the way. And I'm probably going to have it on the podcast soon.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so... the human mind and your perceptions of the world are really plastic. Like you can really change your habits and a lot of things. And one of the main things that influences you are the people that are around you.
Totally.
So if you are, for me, actually, one of the things that made me work really hard was that when I was 19, I probably got into entrepreneurship about a year after Mehtab. And Mehtab was already managing to work 16-hour days on his own business. And he said, hey, Ben, how about you come with me to launch a marketing firm? Because I was working at a marketing firm at the time. And I, was trying to make businesses working about 45 minutes a day, which is not ever going to get you to where you need to go. And Mehtab pretty much locked me in a room with him for 12 hours a day until I was able to do 12 hours a day all the time. And now, I can work really, really hard if I want to. You don't always necessarily, want to spend your life that way, but you need to have the muscle that you can really grind when you want to.
Definitely. Mehtab, how about yourself?
For me, it was definitely just kind of hearing about my grandfather and what he did. He was also an entrepreneur, and he moved here in the 1970s. And then my dad he got into entrepreneurialism too. And they've always just both been working 100-hour weeks, so it just wasn't really a big deal for me.
So you had the work ethic.
Yeah, it was kind of there. And it's not like they were, like my grandpa moved here and he just kind of had to do it. I just kind of thought it's a similar thing, just why not? It's fun.
Yeah, totally. And Tyler, how about yourself?
Yeah, for me, and pushing through that sort of fear, I think it's huge to be able to see your fears, but don't let them stop you, and actually realize that might be exactly the direction that you should be taking. Is where your fears are.
Totally.
So the fear is always very real, and it's an absolute roller coaster. But getting over that fear and realizing that this life is short and we need to have a very rich experience while we're here. And in order to do that, you're going to have to face a lot of fears. And being able to see my grandfather and my great-grandfather and how they were successful entrepreneurs, it really always was the only path for me.
Yeah, totally. Getting over your fears and going towards your fear. In fact, Ben and I were at the Jordan Peterson talk a few weeks ago, and that's one thing Jordan really talks about is he's like, look at the things that you're afraid of in your life and go towards them within reason. Okay, if you're afraid of jumping off a cliff, well, there's a real reason that you're afraid of jumping off a cliff because it's dangerous, right? But if there's fears that are kind of irrational, he talks about how it's the hero's journey, right? It's the idea of going and slaying a dragon, and then the dragon's guarding a pot of gold. And once you slay your inner dragon, you receive that pot of gold. And that was the case for myself in starting a business, and also public speaking was a big one for me. That was really tough. But once I actually got over that, it was super empowering, because when you learn how to speak in front of a group of people, for whatever reason, like when you're speaking to somebody one-on-one or a group of people, a small group, they never really are able to kind of intimidate you again. You feel very confident in your own skin, right? So that was a big one for me. So now we've built ourselves up a little bit. We have the confidence. We're ready to go. Now we need an idea. So where do people start when they're they want to start their own business. They want to become an entrepreneur, okay? Now, should they start with building a product, or should they start with finding a market and building a product for that market? Now, those are the two kind of schools of thought, I guess, and I'd like to hear from you guys what you think about that.
Yeah, I generally find a market. Now, there's kind of two ways you can do it. Here's the general principle behind it. Don't lose your shirt figuring out if an idea is a good idea. So you want to, whatever it is, have the minimum distance between where you are and see, like cash-wise, where you are and how, and to see whether or not people actually will buy this from you. What you don't want to do is spend $10,000 seeing if it's a good idea. So if you have an idea for hot sauce, maybe you try to sell the hot sauce first and see how it goes, and that's having the product first. Or maybe you figure out what people want to buy and then you work backward, and both of them are fine, but the trick is to not spend all the money up front.
Gotcha. So Lean Startup Principles, that's an awesome book for entrepreneurship if you're just starting off, creating that minimal viable product, and then once it is showing some promise, scaling it, right? And that's something we'll get into in a little bit. Mehtab, how about for yourself?
Yeah, I'd say definitely finding a market first is really, really important. So what we do is we're really lucky to have a large community of guitarists. We just ask them what they want. We just say, hey guys, look, what problems do you have right now with the products out on the market? And they'll say, hey, look, the guitar strings available right now, they aren't great. So what we did is we went out and we developed our own guitar strings that solved their problems. And then you don't really have to market it. You just kind of show them the product and they'll buy it. And then if you have a really good product, I think definitely having a really good product is great because you don't have to spend as much money on marketing. That's always the goal.
That's true, right?
Organic referrals.
The product has to be good. That's
exactly,
that's a baseline before you get into the marketing, fancy marketing. And maybe if it's that good, you won't even need to do a lot of marketing. The word of mouth.
Yeah.
So it's kicking in.
Like the guys at Sriracha, apparently they've never marketed their product. The hot sauce, yeah. And it's everywhere.
And it always ends up in my fridge somehow. I have no idea how. I'll do my partner is Asian, so that could be part of the story right there. But so you're, one thing that you feel pretty confident speaking on is starting a business without breaking the bank. Right. So can you kind of dive into that for us? Yeah.
So I think what a lot of people, there's a misconception right now that's floating around where, oh, hey, I need $200,000 to start a business. And that's just not the case anymore. A really good example is the sock company we just put some capital into. Leo, he founded the company a little while ago. I think, Tyler, what was it, like 6 months ago?
Yeah, about 6 months ago.
Yeah. And what he just ran a Kickstarter. And that's how he gauged interest. He didn't have to, there wasn't any capital that he had to outlay to pick up inventory, which is a huge thing in the consumer goods space because typically you'd have to go out and you'd have to order the minimum order quantity from the manufacturer, which might cost you 20 to 50 grand. And he got around that by just going the Kickstarter route. And I think that's the way to go. because that really lets you test your product. He didn't spend a lot of time or money on images, anything like that, copywriting, etc. He tried to build a really, really amazing product and then show it to people, see if they liked it. And he didn't break the bank to develop the prototype. So that's what was really important. And he noticed that he was getting traction. I think he raised $20-something thousand on Kickstarter. Again, no marketing, nothing. He just went for it. And we thought, hey, if it's doing that well without any sort of marketing, why not jump in with him?
Totally. So Tyler, what do you think makes a great opportunity for a product?
So I guess I have to agree exactly what you guys were saying as well. I really like what Mehtab said about kind of testing your community as well. And the communities are going to love the fact that they're helping build these brands as well. They like to feel that they're a part of building something bigger and a part of, that kind of greater cause.
Totally. Yeah.
Finding a great opportunity, for me at least, it's been through filtering through a large process. I've gone through so many potential businesses and landed on these two great ones, so I'm definitely going to ride these horses out for a while. But and meeting very, very interesting people along the way. I don't know.
That's half the fun, right?
It is.
I mean,
absolutely.
like starting a new business. I mean, when we open Float House, like the people that come through the doors here are pretty interesting individuals for the most part. And then doing the podcast, Vancouver Real as well, gave us an opportunity just to attract even more people like Wim Hof and Gabor Mate, because it gives them this platform. And it's like, we would have never been able to meet those people if it wasn't for these different things.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, even when it doesn't go through, you've still learned so much along the process, right?
Totally, yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen in the Vancouver Sun a little while ago, there was somebody got
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, Ponzi scheme, the $30 million Ponzi scheme. I was actually, she took me to the white spot a couple times and wanted to do business. So I dodged a bullet there. Didn't get in on that. But again, just like another interesting case, right?
Totally.
We looked into starting a brewery. We looked into multiple things. So. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. One thing that's a really popular way of going these days is building that online community. And, Mike and I, when we first did Float House, we didn't have a lot of experience, and we kind of did the right things just naturally and organically. We started off by marketing about 6 months before we even opened. As soon as we had the location, we were like, all right, let's start marketing this thing. Floating's so weird, so new and different. We felt like we had to really push it out there hard.
Yeah, you have to educate people.
Education was a huge part of it, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just creating the desire for people to float, right?
Right.
So two things. And we did it primarily through Facebook. And it was a different time, 2012 is when we first started. And you could do a lot more on Facebook for a lot less back then. And it continues to get more expensive, and the reach is going down all the time.
We've definitely found that too.
Yeah. But what we did was we built this online community. We ran multiple contests where we were collecting emails and building our email list. And then essentially all we did was we launched our sale through the email list and through the Facebook platform. And because it was also something new and novel, it was a landslide. The first day we were just like, our jaws were dropping, and we were like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it from a few different people.
I won two of your contests.
You won two?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember that. We did one contest when we opened our Float House Kitsilano location, or at least secured the location.
And we won that one.
Yeah,
and I threw it up on Facebook. I'm like, all right, we'll do a photo contest. Whoever can take a photo by our new location wins. I don't remember what it was. Probably a float package or something.
Yeah.
And sure enough, these two guys entered the contest, which
the greatest
was awesome.
day of my life.
Here's what happened.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
I saw it on there, and you could see the reflection of the new Kitsilano location. Whoever found the new Kitsilano location won some floats, and I'm like a super big float fan. So I called him up, and this is like years ago. So I was driving this old beat up minivan at the time, and I like jump in the minivan, and I'm like, Mehtab, I know where the float place is. I need to pick it up.
Get in the vehicle.
So
he
I
just
drive
shows up
over
at
to his
my
house,
house.
pick him up, and then we make it over to Kits. So
I remember you wearing a cowboy hat in that photo, by the way.
I think it
I
was
still
Halloween.
remember that.
I think
It was Halloween. It was
Yeah.
like
Was it
near Halloween.
It was
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought you might have been from Calgary or something. I don't know. Anyways, Ben, you have a fairly large online community, I'd say, with your business, Blue Man. Would you like to talk a little bit on how that community got built up?
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, so I can talk about, my experience building communities. So we've got I think it's the biggest online hairstyle community. Like if you're thinking like Facebook groups, I think we've got the biggest online Facebook group.
And your
hair.
YouTube channel as well, I was thinking.
Yeah, I think it's the second biggest men's hair YouTube channel. So it's a pretty big YouTube channel. And basically, I mean, here's for me, right? The way that I made Bloom On was I actually didn't start Bloom On. So I made Bloom On with my business partner, Joe Andrews, and I actually sent Joe an email and was like, hey, Joe, I think you do really well if you started a hair product company. So do you want to be business partners? And after probably 2 months of talking about it, he actually said, sure, Ben, like we can be business partners 50-50 and start, this company and turn Bloom On into a new thing. So the thing for the community was, I mean, if you want to look at what's going to build a very strong following is, I mean, really high quality content. And then also another thing that worked really well for us was collaborations. So taking your media platform with super good content and then going on to other places with large followings and then borrowing the followings from there. So you'll see podcasters do that all the time. Like, Tim Ferriss will go on James Altucher and then they'll share back and forth and then people will find each other that way.
Yeah, totally. And that's something we're really diving into. And we did our first real collaboration, I'd say, with London Real. That was a big one where we went on his show and we got exposed to his audience, which definitely just gave us more exposure, right? And we do that with whoever we have on. Like, we're going to be a little more strict in the future and say, like, okay, if you're going to come on our podcast, basically we're going to require you to share it on your Facebook page and email list or whatever channels you can, just because it is like quite a bit of work to put together a podcast. Like,
Absolutely,
there's like the setup, then the recording, then all the editing, everything goes behind it. So it's like, so reciprocate a little bit, right? And a lot of people are willing to do that. Some people aren't. Some people want to kind of leverage your network and not necessarily like reciprocate that way. But it is a super important or a great way to build it up anyways, right?
Yeah, totally.
A lot of the people that you have on probably have large networks already,
Totally.
right? Yeah.
And like, it depends on the guest too. Like when we were first starting off, I think Gabor Mate was number 17, 18. And we were so new and green at that time. We're like, oh my God, it's Gabor Mate. We're not going to ask him to do anything. We're just going to just pick his brain as much as we can. And luckily that, it's still one of our biggest episodes. Had like on YouTube had like 60,000 views or something like that.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, now we're going to be a little more, because we're getting bigger guests all the time. We've had Graham Hancock, like we just had Wim Hof, being on London Real and all those different ones. We're going to be a little more like strict with that policy. But so you've got your community built, you've built it out. Now, what's the next step in terms of leveraging that platform?
Yeah. So essentially what we did, yeah, it really kind of comes back a little bit to what Mehtab said. So the trick is that you have to now dig into what do these people want? What do they care about? What are their big insecurities? Like how can you help these people
solve those, really?
Fix that. Like they feel like this is a problem, and like how do you get in there and go? They're worried their hair's not good enough, and that's gonna apply to their life. And for me, like I can't leave the house, like I can't go to a club without doing my hair. Like I will feel naked without that.
Yeah.
So, because I'm a hair guy.
It's amazing how much a good haircut actually changes the way you feel. Lisa, my girlfriend at the chop shop, when she first gave me a haircut, mine's kind of dull right now. It's not as sharp as it usually is and precision based. But when she switched my hair up and gave me a haircut that I really loved, like it literally like gave me more confidence. I just felt good about myself, right? So I can totally relate to what you're saying.
Totally, yeah. And looking good is a degree, is a level of confidence, is a level of self-actualization. A lot of self-growth that can be done, not related to that, but
totally.
It's nice to look good. So anyway, you have to dig in and figure out what really matters to these people, and then also, how can I help them? So actually what Mehtab and I have done a lot of is we've gone into our communities and said, hey guys, like realistically, what's the perfect product? And then they tell us, and then you go, awesome, and then you make it.
And people are always happy to help. We've never once had someone be like, oh, you guys are just trying to like monetize or anything like that. They just know, hey, look, these guys can probably build a product the way we want it better than the big boys can, because the big companies, they don't really come to us. They don't talk to us. They don't take our opinions seriously.
Yeah.
And even just as a guitarist before, a lot of the time you want certain products or certain guitar to sound a certain way. You'll tell the company and they won't really listen to their customers, which is too bad. So
a lot of big companies stop listening almost because they don't have to listen anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the attitude they have. It's backwards, to be honest.
I was going to ask, I had a question to throw in there. I forget what it is. It'll come back to me. But it was around, let's see, creating your product. I can't remember. Keep going.
that was about it.
Anyway, to come back to it. So it was just, so, and it's kind of a more authentic way to do business too, because you're having a dialogue with the people that care about what you care about. You have shared values, and
Right.
then you can make something. I mean, we use their feedback. We make something together.
How do
they
you?
care about.
Yeah, my question was, how do you collect information from people? What's the most effective way you've done?
The method we always use is just, it's really simple. It's just Google Forms. It used to be called Google Polls. It's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. And it doesn't have to be your own community that you collaborate with. It could be the general community. So say you don't own a guitar forum like we do. You could go out to a few other guitar forums. You can just ask people what they want. What products do they want to see built? You can collect that data, and you can talk to them again and maybe throw some prototypes at them, see what they think, take that feedback, and really try to build the perfect product.
And Tyler, with Meza, tell them what you're doing
That's
right
it.
now.
Like, it's quite interesting what you're saying about these bigger companies not doing this personal sort of thing with their communities, right? And so we've kind of seen a bit of a hole in the market as well. So we've decided to start doing some private label, actually. And we see so many people turning to these boutique brands and something that's just more personal to themselves. So recently what we've been doing is we've manufactured hair products. And we're going
Not
to
Blue Mon's hair
different,
products.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Not Blue Mon's products, but we can still use the supply chain, and still our knowledge into the industry, right?
Yeah, I actually need to clarify that really quick.
Yeah.
Mesa is a company that I'm invested in. That's Blue Mon came first, and I'm helping them set that up. The Blue Mon's products have all come before Mesa, and none of them will ever be from Mesa. But yeah, continue.
So basically, we see what we would like to also do is integrate hair products into clothing brands, such as the way cologne has been. It seems like a very natural fit. You wear your hair like you wear your clothes, right?
Totally.
And people will go into a store because they want to look like the store's brand. You walk into Zara, you want to buy Zara's clothes. So if you see a product like a hair product with Zara on it, why wouldn't you want to buy their hair product as well?
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing things like that, and then we'll expand into different products as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we figured out, what products we're going to create. We have a community built, and the next step is potentially bringing on partnership. And Tyler, this question is for you. So what do you think? What are some really important qualities in picking the right partners for you?
Yeah, again, it's been a complete learning experience, and for me, I like to learn by real life experiences and trial and error. The first partner that I almost took on, he was a ex-drug addict. He had lived on, but I wouldn't have built houses without him. I wouldn't be sitting at this table today if it wasn't for a guy who was living on Hastings in Maine for 15 years.
It's a family member, right?
And he was a family member, but there's always something that you can take from these people. He still had phenomenal energy, and he inspired me to take action. So I could still take something from that. That partnership never worked.
Yeah.
Other than that, lots of trial and error. So many people can't put up with the relentlessness that you need to be successful at entrepreneurialism.
Yeah.
So
it's true. Having that kind of a tougher background is a great backdrop for entrepreneurship, because let's be honest, it's not always a smooth ride, right?
No, it's so stressful.
Yeah, you can totally hit a product out of the park, but then what if it doesn't go out of the park? Now what do you do, right? You have to be able to adapt and change and take criticism and all those different things that come along with it. And that toughness, that mental toughness, you can gain that, but that's something that your partner had naturally.
Yeah, absolutely, and gained over real life experiences. Like I thought I had stories, but he had a few more. And moving down to Vancouver, I expected there to be a lot more entrepreneurs and young people doing what I'm interested in. Again, talking.
So
about
real quick, how old are you guys?
We're both 23.
I just turned.
And
23
he just turned
last
23.
Yeah.
23, and you guys are all. How many businesses have you guys started and are running?
Oh God. Okay, so
1, 2.
the first
I
one
have 3.
I can kind of go through. This is kind of a funny story too. The first one we ever started was an honesty-based vending service. We called it Honest Yum Yums. I started that with Ben as well as 2 other friends. If you've ever read the book Freakonomics, there's this idea they talk about, and it's basically a vending machine, but anybody can just reach in and take what they want. And interestingly enough, nobody really steals from the machine when it's set up that way. People just, you actually end up with more money than you would have had otherwise. So say you have, 4 Coca-Colas sitting in the machine, and each one's $1. Instead of $4, you'd actually end up with $5 or $6. So we decided to take this idea and run with it. It definitely didn't work, but we did land some interesting clients. We had one of our vending machines up and running at Can 4, which is a really big forestry company. Their offices are just where I think it's on Marine Drive.
I remember.
Yeah, Marine Drive. And you know, we learned a lot, but that didn't work out. But it wasn't really a big deal. We didn't lose a ton of money or anything. But it was a really, really good learning experience.
I've still got a measuring cup full of change in the trunk.
Nice.
Oh my
Where I got
God.
my start.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you guys are very young and you're already diving into the world of business. And it just shows you that, like, if somebody has the right mentoring and the drive, they can definitely do it. Like I didn't get started until a lot later in life, which is amazing because you guys have started so young. I mean, the door is so open. Like, you guys can completely fail in 2 years and still be young as fuck and just keep going, right? Because I mean, and that's so incredible. And what would you guys say to people who, who feel like, business isn't for them, or they can't do it, or something like that? What would you say to somebody who's like really struggling with starting something up?
Well, it depends, right? It depends why it's not for them, right? Because if you genuinely don't think business is for you, you might be right, because it's not really for everybody. You have to want to, we have all worked many 12 and 16-hour days, you don't just get successful without, kind of killing yourself doing it.
What's your thoughts on the whole 4-hour work week phenomenon?
Oh God, Ben, you can go first.
I think there's work-life balance, and it's nice to take trips sometimes and live a cool life. But I think living for, it's I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah. Well, I think the appeal is nice, and I think I know a few people who have sort of pulled it off, but I think more often than not, it turns out to be a lot more than 4 hours a week, and typically it's like, you got to work really hard to build anything, right?
And you're not looking to do this for comfort, right? This isn't a comfortable thing. We strive to be uncomfortable because that means we're growing and we're building something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Exactly, it's a good way of putting it.
We're not going to be complacent. Right?
Like I like Tim Ferriss. I like a lot of his ideas, but I feel like a lot of people who read the book, they kind of take it the wrong way. They think, I'm going to start a business and I'm only going to work 4 hours a week on it.
Yeah.
And I've kind of run into a lot of people that are like that. A lot of them are really, really smart, but I feel if they put just a little bit more time into their business, they could do really, really well, which is kind of a shame. It's like all this unused potential.
Take a step back from it even. So like Tim doesn't even work 4 hours a week. Tim works super hard, and he's, a very successful guy. He really enjoys his life, but he works really hard. And I don't think he follows that ethos. Thing is, I think that in life, you just have a giant vacuum of time that's not really going to make you happy. Like, you kind of need something to be chewing on that's exciting. Purpose. You need purpose in life. And if you don't have purpose, you just kind of derelict. And, if you lie on your couch, or even if you just travel and do nothing, like, I don't think that's going to ultimately be fulfilling. Like, you should be creating something that brings value to the world.
Totally. I know some people who have kind of created that 4-hour work week business model in a sense, and they had a lot of free time, and they turned out to be pretty miserable a lot of the time. Like,
Exactly.
I find the going for something, the building something, the process in doing that is
It's
what
so
really
fun.
gets people charged up. And when you're in that process of like growing and creating and building, it's really amazing how you just feel charged up all the time, and you feel like you have boundless energy too. I know when I'm in the creation process of starting anything new, I feel like it's not. First of all, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like I could do a 16-hour day, no problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially if you're working with people you really like. I'm really lucky. I've always had really, really good business partners other than these two. My other business partner in Chicago who runs the guitar side of things for us, he's amazing. He's just a really fun guy to talk to. I like everyone I work with, which I think makes a huge difference. People feel like they're at work normally. And when you say, I'm working for 16 hours, like, oh God, he's working for 16 hours. But it's like, I actually like doing this, and I love working with the people I work with. I feel really lucky.
Totally. We meet up at the Blumon office. He just upgraded again. It's looking great. Fantastic office. But, we work 8 to 10 hours every Sunday. It's work, right? But to us, we're getting shit done, and we're going to start the next week very efficiently, and it's not it's fun.
Exactly.
Right?
And I wanted to throw in too, like, we're throwing a lot of hours around, like, 16 hours, 12 hours. And like that, that is a reality sometimes for sure. And if you want to really, really, really be successful, it's a reality a lot of times. But if you just want to have, a business, like, often you probably could do 8 or 9, maybe 12 when you're setting it up. But then there's lots of ways to do it, But I just don't think 4 hours a week is really.
I agree 100%. So now we've got to the point where we have a product. Let's say we get some sales going. We've tested it. It's better. It's a minimum viable product, and we're ready to scale it up.
Scalability.
Now, yeah. So Mehtab, So how do you prepare for scalability?
Yeah, so I think being ready to scale is really, really big. We ran into that with Blue Mod back in the day. And we learned a lot from that experience, and we made sure we're not going to run into the same problems again.
It's still scaling and there's still headaches, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it never really ends. But one really big thing, I think, is making sure that the people you're working with are very, very strong and they're capable of... everyone's waving at someone. I want to see your
Oh, don't worry. We do this all the time. People get little
Throw me
crowds,
off.
and we just wave to people, and they wave back. And it's fun.
But yeah, I think it's really important to have very, very strong staff that you're working with. The guy that we brought on to run Horizon Devices for us, Kyle Critch, he's just amazing. When he started off with us, he didn't know much, but he was very, very willing to learn. And I think that goes a long way. I'd rather hire someone who has no experience with something, but is very willing to learn, rather than the other way around, someone who's always like, oh, I know everything.
Especially when you're starting off, too, because the more experienced people generally want more money.
Exactly. Yeah, there's that, too. And Kyle was, he's just a perfect fit. Other than that, just making sure everything is systemized. You want systems. If you don't have systems, it's very hard to integrate new people. So say something, God forbid, something happens to your customer service guy. He has a medical emergency. You need someone to fill in. As the business owner, you probably don't have time to go there and fill in for him doing customer service 8 hours a day. So you need to make sure that everything's been written down and systemized so anybody can pick it up. Our goal is always to make it so easy to learn a system that a 15-year-old could do it.
Yeah. One book that I've read was called Pour Your Heart Into It by Howard Schultz. He's the one who kind of made Starbucks really big and blow up.
Okay, cool.
And there's several things. It's a macro scale of business, basically zooming out and looking at Starbucks and their model and how they did it. One thing that he said, there's a few things he said about scaling. One of them was that you actually have to hire the people first before you actually grow. Because if you grow too quickly and you don't have the infrastructure in place, now it's going to be chaos.
Exactly.
And the other thing he said that I thought was really important and interesting was you have to be able to let go of control and actually hire people who can do the job better than you.
I agree. You have to be willing to let them make mistakes and learn from the mistakes. And sure, you're going to lose a little bit of money here and there. It sucks when that happens, but if you don't let them do that, they're never going to learn how to run the business.
Yeah, and you can get leverage too, because you can hire consultants. You can just hire employees that know all about the thing you're trying to do, and that is awesome. And I try to do that everyone in my company that does what they do is a lot better at what they do than I am.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
As an entrepreneur, I do feel like you do have to be somewhat of a generalist. You're the guy who's kind of the ideas, you're putting the dots together, and you have to be able to push something out there that will work, and you have all the pieces in place. But then again, how can you possibly be an expert in every single piece?
You can't.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you got to let go of that kind of I can do everything myself, because there is only so many hours in a day. And if you're stuck working in the business instead of on the business, then you're going to lose direction, right? And then everybody's going to be running around.
And you won't be able to grow.
Yeah,
I feel like that's something
Exactly.
a lot of people get stuck in. They end up working in the business. So, I mean, you guys have obviously done a really, really good job scaling because you guys have so many locations really quickly. But if you guys hadn't focused on growing the business itself and automating well, you'd be stuck with just one location, right?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So that's scaling. Let's see here. What else can we get into? What about building out an amazing customer experience? Mehtab, that's yours again.
Yeah, this is something I'm really passionate about. I think it's really important. We go way out of our way to make sure our customers are happy, because I feel the best. Actually, there's a statistic about this. It's always I forget the exact number, but it's always way cheaper to retain an existing customer and get referrals from them than it is to go out and market to people.
Yeah, totally.
If you're stuck just marketing all day long, you're never really going to grow your business past a certain point. Maybe you can hit that 5-figure a month range, maybe you can hit that 6-figure a month range, but if you really want to grow and
grow through your current clients.
Exactly. If you want to get past that, I mean, I think you guys do a really good job with that. You guys create a really good customer experience. Almost everybody I've talked to who's gone to Float House, they always, like Ben's a good example. He wouldn't stop bugging me. He'd be like, hey, you got to go here. You got to go here. You got to go here. Yeah. And then he'd hit me up. He'd be like, hey, let's go win this contest. And that's how I learned about the brand.
Awesome.
It's free marketing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Happy
Yeah.
customers.
I'd probably tell 2 people a week to float.
Yeah,
That's
and to
amazing.
build that
Thank
out,
you.
I think what you have to do is really look at what the customer is looking for. Make sure you're selling them exactly what they want.
And
Don't
delivering
mislead
on that
people.
promise, too.
Exactly. Don't mislead people. Give them exactly what they want, and make sure they're happy. So, for example, we just started with our guitar pedal company. That did really well with pre-orders. The first batch just came in, and we're calling everybody who pre-ordered to make sure they're happy with the product. We asked them for their feedback to figure out how we can improve our processes and our business. And I think that helps a lot, just kind of building that experience up. You want to turn it into an experience,
Yeah.
not just selling a product.
Exactly. Well, we're even taking it a step further here, and we're going to start almost ritualizing the experience. So when when somebody comes in, like they're automatically starting to become more relaxed because they're stepping into Float House. It's already a chill environment, and they know what they're getting into. And there's something about ritual too before you start anything that you're doing. Like if you're going to go do a heavy squat or you're going to do a sprint, like all athletes will have a little ritual they do before they actually go and do that activity. So we're going to start building in and like just explaining to people, making a ritual when you get here, because that'll actually trigger them to start relaxing and going deeper. And that's, most people come here and they have a great experience. Some people, if you're talking to somebody who's a little bit more high strung, very intellectual, very heady, they do struggle more for the most part, who aren't used to at least, taking that awareness out of their mind a little bit and bringing it into their body and getting that slowed down, right? But if you can teach people to trigger that so they're relaxing before they even get here, that's pretty huge. And the other thing we're doing too, or we've always done, is really focus on customer service. Like, we have this little phrase we just call "make it right." So if somebody has a complaint or something went wrong, we almost always comp them the float. Almost always.
Absolutely.
So it's like if there's one thing that we did wrong and it affected their float negatively, we'll comp them. And we find as soon as we do that, like the problem's mitigated and they're very happy, and then they'll usually like write you a good review afterwards.
I think a lot of people look at customer service the wrong way. They think, hey, here's something we have to put money into. We're just burning the money. But really, it's a chance to kind of prove to your customer that, oh, hey, sure, we made a mistake, but we're going to go way out of our way to make it right. And we're going to do such a good job that you're going to tell all of your friends about it. And it's almost like an opportunity. I don't want to say it's an opportunity to sell to them again, but it's an opportunity to prove that when you made a mistake and you're mature about it and you're willing to make things right for them.
And let them know that you're going to be willing to hear them out and make it obvious. And that's what you do with the phone calls after the product's released, right? And that's what you do with handwritten notes as inserts into the product, right? You say, okay, like if there is a problem, we're here for you, right? Mm-hmm. And that's building the community again.
And one thing too that really helps with this, having a really good company culture of having really strong service. And one thing I noticed at Float House too is that the employees are super nice. Like everyone or the team members they're all really cool. Like every time I finish my float, I end up having a 20-minute conversation with the person behind the desk just because they're friendly and cool.
Yeah. And that's, I don't want to brag too much, but I mean, any organization, is going to reflect the leader of that organization.
Agreed.
That's just the way it goes, right?
So fun.
So however that leader is showing up is going to permeate, that attitude is going to permeate through all the employees. In fact, that business and how it's run is really a reflection of the person who created it.
Absolutely.
For the most part, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have more to add to that one, or?
Yeah, with you. I've noticed it before. There's other companies we've worked with, and they're kind of like it's weird how obvious it is. You don't really think about it until you meet someone who's founded a company. Even if it's a really big company, a couple hundred employees, they're all kind of similar to the boss. And I think that's because everyone looks up to them to kind of see, hey, what should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? Almost like kids look up to their parents.
Yeah.
And it kind of reflects back on. So as a leader, you have to make sure you're giving off the right vibes.
And that's the other thing too. You can tell a lot of times how well a business is run by how happy the employees are. If the employees are angry and pissed off and grumpy and bad customer service,
Agreed.
then it's probably not a very well-run business. There's probably a lot of mistakes going on and a lot of clunkiness, and maybe the owner's disengaged or whatever it happens to be.
Probably how the owner's feeling as well. He's probably frustrated, just as frustrated as his employees, right?
Which is so important. Like, and that's just like a leadership piece in general. I think is just like how you show up. And the other side of that too is, being really open and honest with your employees too.
Absolutely.
I think is huge, because if they trust you and they like you, like, they're gonna work for you, and they're not gonna leave. So you're not training new employees. They're gonna do a better job for you. They're gonna speak very highly. All your employees become like little marketers for your business as well, right? So they're in the community talking to their friends and family. They treat me really well here. The bosses are really cool. It just reflects positively on your business overall, right?
Just
Absolutely.
like your customers, they have to know that you're willing to hear them out, and they can't be scared to bring up concerns, right?
Right. Yeah, totally, man. All right. So now we've picked the right partners. We got great business partners. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
Now, delegating efficiently.
Yes.
Tyler, I think that's one for you.
Yeah, delegating efficiently. That's a good one. And I guess we kind of already hit on that as well. And just realizing that, you're not you can't be in 5 places at once. And, you know, when I was building houses, I got up to building, you know, 5 at a time, right? So those are all different locations, and you're at different stages of the process during them all. And you're dealing with different contractors for it all as well. So again, it kind of goes back to that communication, having that clear idea of who's doing what job, and really showing appreciation for it, and giving people, once again, the room to make mistakes and the room to grow and realize that it's human, right? And that's the part of building that company culture again.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. And another interesting part is, like, again, diversifying investments, right?
Yeah.
Now, an investment can be looked at on a lot of different ways, and definitely investing into a business could be considered a long-term investment.
Yeah.
So that's something you can speak on. But what really resonates with me is building multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
Right. So you
Absolutely.
have, so basically, like, if one of your streams shuts down or the product dries up or whatever, well, you have a couple of other ones going, and then you can, it's the entrepreneurial journey, right? Continually reinventing and building new products.
That's just what makes things interesting too, right? And I mean, I think as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way, there's a natural curiosity and a want to learn. So you look into different industries, different markets, and interested in other people as well. So it's kind of, and a sense of boredom too when you're complacent, right? So
Yeah.
it's always wanting to.
And we were actually talking about this earlier. It's less about the money. It's more about the chance to go out and just try things you've always wanted to try. Like, I'm just really thrilled we get to run a lot of fun experiments that I've always wanted to try, but we never had the capital for. And now we're kind of starting to get into that, and it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Let's go around the table with this one. You know, especially brick and mortar, there's always going to be challenges. Like, you think you've seen it all, but then something new pops up. Like,
Absolutely.
You know, we've been broken into multiple times. They always grab the Mac in front of, and they run out. And every time we do that, we beef up security a little bit more. So you think you see everything, and all of a sudden something completely new happens. And you're like, oh wow, that's interesting. Like, for example, we have to get, like, the ducts redone on the building because of the Epsom salts in the air, and it's causing premature corrosion.
Oh wow.
So it's like something that we couldn't even imagine to think of, right? So all these challenges are going to come up, which is very difficult to predict. In fact, you can't probably predict all of your challenges.
No. Yeah.
You can try. But what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys have faced, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, the trickiest things for me have mostly been when I'm working with an external company. So a lot of the time, my business will be very reliant on another business and their terms and the way they're going to do things. And often they do things in a weird way that just throws me into a tailspin. Like, for example, when I first ran my pre-orders, I ran them through PayPal, and I didn't read PayPal's terms of service, actually. So we did some pretty significant pre-orders, and enough we had, you know, thousands and thousands of orders to fulfill, and PayPal froze my money. And they didn't give me the money that we just took on essentially a Kickstarter. And the reason they didn't do it was because they don't take pre-orders on PayPal. So any money that went into PayPal is now frozen, and they won't give to you. So I had to go figure out how to.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we recommend Stripe.
Anyone, don't do pre-orders on PayPal. They will
pretty
take
big
your money.
Yeah, pretty big challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what did you do to overcome that?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I got a cash flow loan from my parents. So I just said, hey, Mom and Dad, like, I need, like, I think it was like $40,000 or something. And I said, if you give me this, I can just pay you back once PayPal releases my money, and I give the products. And I made the products, and then I paid my parents back.
Right. Well, luckily for your parents, that was a relatively safe loan to give out there. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, you already knew what you had pre-ordered already, so knew you could get it back. But yes, so luckily you could dive into a resource that way. And
Yeah, and honestly, like, I mean,
good for your parents to just, like, you know, support you and take a chance on you.
yeah, you know, and I think I was like 21 at the time. And the thing is like, yeah, and I got to be honest, I'm quite successful at 23. It depends on what you can consider successful, but, you know, I've had help too. You know, people have different roads and different ways. And
well, that's another interesting thing too, is you see these guys, like, look at, like, Gary Vee, or one who I really look up to is Aubrey Marcus. I really like what Aubrey's created with On It.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand too, like, a lot of guys are parlaying into new businesses. So it's not like they just started out of nowhere and start this multi-million-dollar company, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, Aubrey, for example, like, he came from the Fleshlight. That was his background.
Yeah.
Genius.
His dad started the Fleshlight, and then In fact, he started marketing that on Rogan for the first little while at the beginning of Joe Rogan, and then they dropped the fleshlight, and then all started marketing Alpha Brain on Rogan, and then Rogan.
They have
is also,
amazing marketing. Their
he's
whole
built
thing
into
on
that
it, thing's
company as
amazing.
well.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have a guy like Joe too backing your company,
Right.
Influencer based.
definitely
But their
helps.
actual site, everything's just beautifully executed. I love
Totally.
it.
And they have a great content.
Agreed, yeah.
They're educational content. They're always coming up with new, and it's a brand that I want to be around because it's cool.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah. But that's going back to your point of you never know where somebody's coming from, right? So it's like, some people do get loans from whatever source. You don't really know. So don't beat yourself up too much if you're starting off from scratch, because it is tough.
It's
right?
tough, yeah.
And if you don't have some resources to kick you off, it's really tough to get going.
And I mean, anybody who's saying that they're a self-made millionaire or self-made in any way, I mean, I guess they're just probably not giving enough appreciation to somebody, right?
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
Well, I mean, who's self-made at anything in life?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, everything's interconnected. Like, I mean, you can't brush your teeth in the morning unless somebody makes that
Right.
toothbrush.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's all a giant network, really, that we're all
Yeah, you're a
involved
product
with.
of your environment.
So it's like, the self-made thing is kind of interesting. It's kind of an egoic saying, I did it all by myself, But
Yeah.
really, you had to be raised by your parents, which is a hell of a lot of work.
Right.
And it's really important to remember your roots, too. Remember and be grateful and, help people who helped you. Reciprocate it back, too.
Oh, I agree. I think that's really, really big. It's always important to give back to anyone who's helped you out. They've kind of stuck their neck out for you. Actually, with our guitar pedal, we were really, really, really lucky. Our manufacturer, their MOQ is usually a lot higher than it was. And the CEO was kind enough to drop that just for us. So we've made sure to reciprocate. And he really appreciated it. So it's great. Worked out well.
These people too, who help you along the way, who don't expect anything from it, I wouldn't have built houses after I fell through with my partnership with the guy who struggled with drugs. I had a pastor, a family friend, and I sat him down, brought him a latte for months, once a day for months, and he just gave me his time, and he didn't expect anything in return.
Yeah,
it was
totally.
It's phenomenal.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit now. We have our product, we have our team in place. Let's talk marketing, which is a very creative. You have to be part artist, part scientist to be a marketer,
Agreed.
right? Because you have to be very creative, yet you also have to be able to look at the data and be like, okay, what's the data telling you, and are you spending your dollars efficiently, basically? So maybe Ben, you can talk on marketing a little bit from your perspective.
Yeah, and again, I think it really product development is kind of the first step in marketing. For example, if Float House was not, suppose it didn't sell floats, it sold something else, it might not do very well, right? And it's what you have to have is a story and a thing and a purpose and a reason why you're there that matters and is compelling, and then when people show up, it's worthwhile. So, you can have a great, pay-per-click conversion rate, or, you can convert people to buy things, but then, they might all want refunds, they might leave you negative reviews,
You can't scale.
You can't really do marketing without product, and sure, there's a lot of tactics in marketing too. Once you have who you are and what you're about and what this is and why you do it, and then the product that you actually have, sure, there's a lot of different strategies, like getting it out to influencers to talk about it and things like that. But
what are some of the strategies that you guys have used?
Oh, sure. Okay. So we've, so for example, for me, I partnered up with Joe Andrews, right? It's actually just like On It. Joe is a very big,
Also named Joe.
yeah, also named Joe as well.
There
So
you go.
he's a big hairstyle influencer. So when, Joe Rogan talks about On It, that's gonna get a lot of a lot of interest. When Joseph Andrews, my business partner, talks about Bloom On, that gets a lot of interest. And not only that, but Joe's got all kinds of influencer friends, so then they talk about it, and that's the reason Daniele Bolelli talks about On It, because he knows Aubrey and Joe. They have sponsorship set up and things like that, but it's a real once you know one influencer, the whole network opens up, and then you know everybody.
So going through influencers, that's definitely one way. What else has worked for you guys?
What I found worked really well is what you have to be good at is you have to think, how many market segments can I test with the least amount of money? Because you want to find who's converting best within a certain segment. So say firefighters really want to buy your products, but you don't know that yet. You need enough you need to figure out how to use your capital efficiently enough to where you can afford to go out and test as many segments as possible. And I think one of the cheapest ways to do that is with pay-per-click ads. It's so easy if you just go and you pick up a product like Instapage that lets you quickly make landing pages for, I think it's like maybe $50 a month. Their first month's free. And it only takes you $10-20 in Facebook ads to test a segment. You just need to make sure you have good pictures and you took the time to optimize for one specific segment. And once you find the right kind of group of people to sell to, that's when you can build the rest of your brand around that segment.
Right. Tyler, anything to add to that?
Yeah, and basically, once again, just building and developing these large communities. And that's with the influencers. And
Yeah, absolutely, man, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely an amazing journey, and it can be very taxing for sure. You know, for myself, I've really started saying no to things. You know, before I used to jump on every single opportunity, every single interview. I would sit down for every coffee meeting, and I just stopped doing that because it is really energy draining, or it
100%.
can be.
Yeah.
You know, for example, we are going to go speak at this float conference, a new float conference that a guy was starting up in the Midwest. And we were like, they were going to fly us down there to speak at the conference, and super flattering to have us, like, you know, pay our way to go down and do this thing. But man, this month was so slammed, and we had to email the guy about a month before and said, we're not doing it, you know? Yeah. And it's one, you know, I started setting boundaries with things like that. And that was a big one because I did want to speak there, but it's just like, man, like, would it really benefit me to speak there? Is it really worth it? So what are some of the strategies that you guys use to maintain like your energy and just be able to keep going out there without stalling?
In terms of energy and kind of getting out there, I've cheated a bit. I rely on Ben and Tyler to kind of go out there and talk to a lot of people.
We're the inhuman people.
Yeah. But in terms of keeping your energy up there, I think it's really important to kind of diversify your tasks to make sure you're not doing one thing over and over and over again, because that's what burns you out. That's why I like to work on 3-4 different projects at once, just because it keeps me really excited about everything. I don't get bored of one thing, and it keeps you high energy.
Right.
And that actually isn't so much the case for me. It's the interesting thing about your energy levels is it's going to be how your body works and your mind works, and you kind of have to know yourself really well to keep yourself motivated and like really dig into, okay, who am I? What do I care about? And like for me, being around friends, talking about the story really helps me a lot. You know, and a lot of the time, just being around people that have a similar vision to me is just super energizing.
I think that helps. You just have to totally know exactly your direction and where is your destination, and you have to stay on that road to get there. And you have to understand how valuable your time is as well. But you do have to keep an open mind. That I've found from my experiences and having some success is that you have to keep open to, you don't know what you don't know. So that you can learn so much from somebody that may not seem like they have something to offer you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We had that happen with the pedal company. At first, I was like, oh, great, a pedal company. Like, how many can you really sell? I thought it was a tiny market. And my friend, he's in a pretty big metal band called Periphery. His name's Misha, and he hits me up. You know, we've sold a few guitars to each other just because we're both guitar addicts. And he goes, hey, why don't we start a pedal company? I'm like, we'll see. And then he's like, no, let's just do it. I'm like, okay, sure. And it ended up working out way better than I thought. He was totally right. I was absolutely wrong. And just like Tyler was saying, it's really important to kind of be out there, put yourself out there, and listen to other people, listen to what they have to say, even if you think they might be wrong.
That openness piece is huge, right? You know, our brains are basically like dot connecting machines, right? So I constantly have a podcast on, and that's how we became early adopters of float tanks, because we heard about it super early on through Joe Rogan before it became a trend. Yeah. So one thing I'm doing now is really looking for and trying to identify trends. Yeah. And then, you know, finding that trend that you think can turn into something, having a product around it, and then timing, launching it at the right time, not too early and not too late.
Agreed.
Is super important. What kind of trends are you guys seeing that could potentially turn into something out there?
Well, there's steps to the trends that we want to jump on.
Yeah. I mean, one really big thing that we want to capture actually is within the next 8 to 12 months, we're going to roll out a fund, a micro or nano VC fund that captures the shift in consumers buying from really big companies to more boutique companies. You guys have probably noticed it too. Like a lot of people buy
craft kombucha.
Yeah, craft kombucha. That's a good example. Or craft beer. Yeah. Nobody really likes to go out and buy from the big boys anymore. The problem is that for the average investor or the average VC that's managing, $1 billion, it's just not, those companies are too small for them to really go out and invest in. So they don't have the time. So it's more efficient for them to give their capital to a nano or micro VC fund like we'd want to start. And then we can kind of go out and capture that value for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to be like almost like a serial entrepreneur for a venture capital firm, basically, is what it sounds like.
Well, we'd have our own VC fund and they'd give us cash. Like we'd take cash in from other VC funds, and then we'd kind of go out and buy a few more consumer goods companies, or we might use it to scale existing ones that we own or start new ones.
So we'll have an amazing track record after Never Quit goes
sock
amazingly well
company,
as
yeah.
well.
We already have
right?
a pretty good track
What is
record.
Never
Exactly.
Quit?
So Never Quit is this high performance sock that Mehtab mentioned that we purchased off of seeing from Kickstarter. Is a great story to that. We
Is it the one when he's running around in just his socks?
No,
Like,
that's
that-
different.
that's
That would be
something
really
that-
cool.
Okay.
But
okay.
I mean, this is cool too. But yeah, Tyler, go on.
No, it was great. So Mehtab had a mutual friend on Facebook that shared this Kickstarter campaign, and he said, "Okay, well, this seems like a cool product." He looks at it, and so this Kickstarter campaign's made $21,000 in a month. So he calls us up and says, "Well, do you guys want to partner up?" And I'm always interested, right? So it's like, absolutely. So we call Leo, and we sit him down at the Cactus Club. And we kind of just hashed it out, and he's very logistics based, and we're very creative. So it's a very it's a great team, anyways.
Yeah, it's nice, like a yin yang type thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So during his time in the mandatory military service, he realized that his feet hurt all the time. He was using terrible boots. So he came up with this high performance sock, worked with the designer, sourced some material from Germany, and just came up with this amazing sock. So
Right.
we had to be a part of it.
What other trends are you guys eyeing up right now? What's on your radar?
I think artificial intelligence is huge. I don't think that's a trend as much as it's going to be like a permanent shift. Frankly, though, we don't have the cash to play that game. It's really, really expensive. All the big boys are snapping up as much talent as they can. Even just talking to a few of my friends who are in machine learning and AI, they've said even guys like Amazon can't snap up the good talent. Google has it all with DeepMind. And but we want to find a way to get in there somehow and start ourselves. But
Go
I
into
don't know how
DeepMind
yet.
a little bit. What are they doing there exactly? That you know.
I don't know much. All I know is it's
deep.
various AI projects, like self-driving cars. And I think a lot of that's going to be a huge shift just permanently. You're not going to need to own a car, which I
Well,
think is amazing.
That's one thing, Trump talked a lot about this on his campaign about bringing jobs back to America.
Yes, I thought that
which
was funny.
Total BS
Yeah.
because tech is going to take out
Yeah.
all jobs, basically. I mean, look at the Amazon store. You can basically walk into a store and walk out with the product, and now you just have a bunch of stock people running around, right? Where else do you see these type of things like tech taking over traditional jobs?
Even in customer service, we're actually
Yeah.
using an artificial intelligence platform that, so say you're a customer, right? You email us, the AI will analyze your question, and it'll come up with a predetermined answer. And then our customer service guy will look at the answer, determine if it's good or not, if it's a good answer or not, and then he'll approve it or he'll edit it and send it back to you.
Okay, great. So we don't have to think as much anymore.
Exactly.
Or actually, we have time to think more.
That's a good way of putting it,
true.
yeah.
That's true. Instead of zoning out, it frees up some creative faculties, right? And that's another thing too. Like if you're, working a 9-to-5 job, it's pretty tough when a company or a corporation is taking your best hours of your life every
Agreed.
single day. And then you have your weekends to kind of recover, and then you start off again on Monday and you grind it out. One thing that Gary Vee said that I thought was great advice for anybody starting something up is like you work your 9 to 5. And then what you do is you go home and you work from like 7 to 2 in the morning every single day until you get that product launched. And sometimes that's what it takes. Like it's very hard to leave your current position and leave your income and then start something and hope you create a product that works before
absolutely.
your savings dry up or whatever, right? But maybe you guys could speak to that a little bit about the idea of the side hustle and how important it is to maybe work your job, but then parlay that or maybe parlay another business into something else.
Yeah, well, you just don't want to. You don't want to leave yourself in a position where you think you're going to make money next week, because business is often a long grind, and you might
So many
take
delays.
Sometimes it takes you 18 months before you see your first dollar, and you have to be super acutely aware of the fact that that could happen to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, just like you were talking about earlier, you really never know what's going to happen. Like, say you're just so close to that first paycheck, and then boom, you have to pay for repairs, or someone breaks in and they steal all of your equipment. there goes your paycheck.
Yeah. And I mean, like, maybe this business too, you just have to find something that you can work with. Like, and I understand how hard it would be for somebody who's working a 9 to 5 for somebody else and constantly having to put their energy into not being creative for what they want, but for somebody else, quite frankly. But for this first business, maybe it's not their dream business that they want to get into at the end of the day, but they might have to sludge through a bit of shit, really, to get to that business that they're going for.
Awesome. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit. And where do you guys see yourself in 5 or 10 years?
Oh boy.
In
Ben, you want to go
space.
first?
Yeah, well, I think we should be doing. I guess we'll be kind of exiting consumer goods by then. And I mean, yeah, we want to have a lot of really cool consumer goods companies, but then, I mean, we want to get into a lot bigger, more interesting things that have bigger impacts in the world, like things like AI, things like biotech, things like life extension. It's like exciting, interesting technologies where we can use the skills that we're developing in our early 20s and kind of these, sandbox businesses, and then try to see how much of an impact we can have.
So creating businesses to have an impact in the world as opposed to just making money is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
So really, like, quite like the side hustle that we just talked about, like maybe this is a stepping stone for something else. We're going to do this really well, but we're going to do something else even bigger really well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I really like what Elon Musk's done, where he made a bunch of money off of something like PayPal, where, he definitely helped improve the world with that. But now he's doing things way more aggressively with Tesla, with SpaceX, etc. And I think we want to kind of take after that. I like that.
Yeah.
So
and
you want to go to Mars in 5, 10 years?
Not quite that, but like more
11.
biotech.
well, what does your dad do?
Yeah, like he's into biotech, and I kind of like that. I like the idea of helping people. It's
Nice.
just a lot more fulfilling than consumer goods. Like, sure, you sell someone a product, maybe an iPhone, and they're happy with the iPhone, but it's not really changing their life in a substantial way. But if you help a kid maybe walk that couldn't walk before, that's something really big. I think that's a little more fulfilling.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a question I usually ask our guests, and a lot of our guests on Vancouver Real are a little bit older. But the question is, if you could make a phone call and give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would that be? Now, for you guys, it's only, 3 years ago, so
Yeah.
that's kind of tough. But maybe you can go back to when you were just, before you actually got on your entrepreneurial journeys. If you can give that 18, 19-year-old kid a phone call, what would you tell them?
Trust yourself and enjoy the
Yeah.
process.
I think so too.
That's immediately what comes up for me.
And take more risks, be more confident. At first, when I first started, I wasn't super confident. I was like, can I really pull this off? Am I smart enough? But over time, actually what gave me a really big confidence boost is when I was working at a place here called Telco, and they did telemarketing. And I didn't realize I was good at sales or even good at anything before I started there. Then I outsold everyone else put together. And that gave me a huge confidence boost. I was like, you know what? I can't do this. And I think that's huge. A lot of people don't quite realize how smart they are, which I think is a really big shame. A lot of people they've been told they're not smart their whole life, or they've been misled by people telling them to go down a certain path, when that's just not true. You could do a lot more than you think you can.
So believe in yourself.
Yeah.
That's a great point, because I know Ben and I have talked about that lots, because, we both have sort of ADHD or OCD tendencies. And it's like growing up, you look at all this stuff as negative sort of things, and especially in the education system too, right? But if you get to a point where you can utilize these as strengths, and a lot of people couldn't do this sort of stuff if they don't have these eccentricities, right?
Absolutely, for sure. Ben, how about yourself?
Yeah, I agree with the same. It's really just believe in yourself. Don't be afraid to take the risk, and yeah, just make sure that you enjoy the ride, and yeah, especially believing in yourself and not stressing out too much, because that's something that's really killed me over the time, is just getting too stressed out over stuff that ultimately totally worked out.
Awesome, guys. Okay, so what is one book that you could recommend to people that they must read that you think is super important?
Ben, you want to go first?
Oh, great. Okay, a book I'm reading right now is The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. I think that's a really cool book.
What's it about?
It's about pretty much his entrepreneurial journey. So he started a company called, I think it was LoudCloud he started, and it basically didn't work out, and he had to parlay it into Opsware, which is another company. So basically he had this crazy thing, his crazy up and down journey going through the tech bubble, and having it burst on him when he had this company. And ultimately, though, he survived it. Now he's one of the most successful venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. But it's all about just how difficult and gut-wrenching things can be. And then he goes into some cool business tips in the end.
So what's the name of that one again?
The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz.
Awesome.
I actually read a lot of white papers and research papers because I'm kind of boring, but I think How to Win Friends and Influence People is really good. It just teaches you how to make deals properly, how to make sure everyone wins, and how to run a team really well. One of the really big things I learned is don't ever give yourself credit for anything. It's always good to kind of recognize what your team's done. And a lot of time it is your team kind of doing everything for you. You're just the one kind of putting the dots together, and they're the ones out there executing.
Yeah.
And you're really reliant on them. And I think a lot of leaders forget about that. And they try to take credit for things when really it's their team who's out there just doing a great job.
So How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. That's a great one as well. You and Ty Lopez have something in common there.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I'm just here in my garage.
And how about yourself, Tyler?
The Effective Executive, I quite enjoyed that one. Basically, yeah, it's all about putting the enterprise first. Who wrote that book?
Peter Drucker.
Peter Drucker. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so it's really about thinking of the enterprise first, and time efficiency is huge as well, right?
Yeah.
Understanding the value of your time and where to put every minute into a day.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys, what podcast do you listen to?
Vancouver
How I
Real.
Built This and Vancouver Real.
Yes, awesome. Anything else that comes to mind for you guys? Or do you guys listen to podcasts?
I know I do listen to podcasts. So outside of Vancouver Real, of course, I listen to Tim Ferriss. I like Joe Rogan. And it depends, right? There's kind of different levels. I like audiobooks a lot, too.
Have you dove into Jordan Peterson's podcast?
Oh, yeah. Maps and Meetings. Sorry, I'm a huge Jordan Peterson fan, too. And I guess there's different levels, right? Like, because you can listen to things for philosophy, like Jordan Peterson. You can listen to things for business execution, which Tim Ferriss is a bit, but there's other ones like How I Built This and things like that.
That one's really good.
And then, there's Joe Rogan, just kind of like for fun and a little bit of learning. I've been really into Jordan Peterson lately, though. I recommend him a lot. I mean, kind of for business, but more for life. I think he's really good.
Yeah, totally. Any other recommendations, guys? No?
Actually, there's a series of videos by Stanford University, and they've had a bunch of really cool people come on there. I've just been watching those recently. I think you have too, right, Ben?
Yeah.
There's one by Mark
Andreessen
Andreessen, which is really, really good.
yeah.
It's amazing. I would definitely watch those because they have just a bunch of really amazing billionaires on there that you could learn a lot from.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, before we wrap it up, is there anything else that's burning inside you, something that you think is really important you want to throw out there?
Thank you, Andy.
Oh.
Yeah, thanks, Andy.
Yeah,
Thanks
this
for
has
having
been
us on.
great.
And thank you,
Really
Mike.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
Mike.
Holding it
Well,
down.
you guys
Awesome.
you guys have given a lot of great content today, a lot of great information. Anybody who's looking to start up something could listen to this, and I think get a lot of real valuable points out of it. So thank you guys for sharing your thoughts and minds, and I really think we should do this again. Maybe 6 months,
Absolutely.
come back on, and we'll see where you guys have evolved to. So anyone you want to give a shout out to?
My mom.
Mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mom, girlfriend Jenna, she's probably watching.
I wanna thank
My
I just
team,
wanna-
for sure. Thanks, guys, for
there you
having
go.
our back all the time. Anyway, go ahead, Tyler.
No, just I want to thank everybody who's had some influence in my life, one way or another, to get me to where I am today.
Amazing.
Really appreciate it.
Well, this episode is live, so when we end it, it's going to be out there on Facebook now, which is pretty cool. However, we're going to do the full episode launch as well, so we're going to create a trailer, and then we'll do little videos, and we'll share them out there. So
Cool.
You'll see all these gentlemen again in a few weeks. And if you like what you heard today, definitely give us a review, give us a rating. That really helps us get found. We really appreciate it. And again, if you'd like to try floating, use the promo code VancouverReal. That will get you a 20% discount on a single float. You can go to floathouse.ca to redeem that. And I think we're good to wrap it up. So thank you very much for joining me on Vancouver Real, and we should do it again.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having
man.
us.
Float House is awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys.